Broadcasting live from the catacombs deep beneath the Empty Wallet Gamer offices, I'm Greg for the Spider Duck Network, and this is the Himalayas stage of DuckTales Remastered.
Pack my parka, Duckworth. We're headed for the Himalayas to hunt for the lost crown of Genghis Khan.
Shall I forward your call, sir?
Gee, can I come, Uncle Scrooge? I want to see the pretty Himalayan marmots.
Oh, not this time, Libby darling. I need you here looking after the boys. Otherwise, who knows what kind of trouble they might get into.
Oh, that's very smart. Uncle Scrooge!
Indulge me, lads. The last thing this expedition needs is a wee lass about. Oh, I'm going to have enough trouble looking after the launch pad.
The remastered version of the African Mines fiddled with the path structure of the NES version to make a new stage. Here, the remastered version of the Himalayas will use a similar structure but introduce new goals in order to make something new.
Launch pad. I told you to land in the center of the mountain range, not in the center of a mountain.
Gee, Mr. McD, I thought that crash was rock solid.
The only rocks around here are the ones inside your head. Ugh, we're nowhere near Shadow Pass and the Lost Crown. Now fix this wreck so we can get airborne. And step on it, lad. I'm paying you by the hour, and I'll nae having you billing me for overtime.
No problem, boss. As long as I have this fuel regulator, we're as good as... Whoopsie-daisy. Oops. My mom always said I was a Butterfingers.
Oh, no. Please tell me you've got another one of those.
Sure I do, but it's back in Duckburg.
Launch pad!
Don't worry, Mr. McD. I'll climb down and get it.
You'll do no such thing. I'll get it. You stay here and try not to cause any more damage.
Okay, you're the boss.
The uneven ground here not only feels like a naturally formed landmass, it also creates nooks and crannies for dodging goats. It ensures each goat encounter is different, giving you different advantages in each situation. Plus, because the ground elevation seems arbitrary, each encounter is hard to predict. Will the next goat have the higher ground, or will you? It encourages on-the-fly analysis. Anyway, in previous stages, DuckTales Remastered has taken elements of the NES original and, smooth them out one way or another. For instance, you can tell which mirrors will transport you in Transylvania. That way, it's not a guessing game. And in the African Mines, the two shortcuts were turned into dead ends that just gave treasure. This prevented players from skipping key parts of the stage. In general, DuckTales Remastered encourages the player to experience as much of the game as possible, whether by clear communication or outright forcing it. This above-ground portion of the Himalayas remains the same as the NES version, but the cave portion is now used for a fetch quest. In the NES version, the cave was a place where you could explore, or you could get lost. Remastered allows for exploration by retaining a similar structure, but reduces the potential for losing your way by giving you key items along the way. They give you landmarks to hit, and on easy or normal mode, they'll help you fill out your map. It boils down to this. In the NES Himalayas, there are dead ends you can hit by accident. In the remastered Himalayas, you can't continue unless you hit every point. There is one key structural change made to accommodate this, but I'll get to that later, at about 9.5 minutes.
Ha-ha! Jackpot! Here now, don't touch that. I need it to fix my plane. Stop! Oh, it's too late. Those bunny bandits have torn it apart. I've got to find those pieces fast.
Rather than rooting around in the cavernous depths of the cave for the stage's health extension, it's behind an easy-to-spot illusion wall right near the cave entrance. This goes quite a ways to expressing how Remaster treats discovery. You don't have to brave a dangerous platforming sequence that's easily missable. In Remastered, Anything that's missable isn't hidden too far off the beaten path, and if a path has hardy platforming, you'll be required to take it.
Morning glory! Now to find the other 2 pieces.
I mentioned in the Money Bin video that Capcom Disney games generally go for fun instead of a strict sense of challenge. You can look at a game like Mega Man or Bionic Commando, and everything is sensibly placed as the next challenge. DuckTales doesn't work that way. If you go back and look over the last minute of footage or so, you'll see a ton of ice blocks hanging around for no reason. They don't get in your way, and they're not placed so that you can use them against enemies. They're just there to add flavor to the level. It makes for a more compelling and subtle experience, I find, when not everything is there just for challenge.
Hilts, it's Bubba Duck. Looks like that poor little pea brain got caught in a deep freeze.
Whoa, what happened? Scooge? Ooga ooga! Scooge saved Bubba!
There, little fella. Uncle Scrooge is here to help.
Scooge saved Bubba! Scooge saved Bubba! Scooge saved Bubba! Bubba helped Scooge! Bubba helped Scooge forever!
You know, I could use a bit of help smashing away this giant icebox. What do you say, Bubba?
Ooga ooga!
In that case, follow me, lad.
And this Bubba sequence is a good example. Here's a section devoid of danger, but you get to play around with a new game mechanic for a little bit. Granted, this isn't in the NES original. My point is just that here we have a section that exists with the sole purpose of fleshing out the stage. There are a few moments here where using Bubba properly will net you extra cash. What's odd though, is that the most difficult moment comes first. You have to race ahead of Bubba to reach a chest before he smashes your path up to it. It's almost guaranteed that you won't get this on your first run through the stage, since you'll still be getting used to how Bubba moves. The latter treasures are easier to find, too, since it's just a matter of making sure Bubba smashes everything. In fact, they keep going down in difficulty. The second treasure, the one right here, is invisible, and the last treasure is in a chest tucked behind an ice block. You can see it now. He also tries to hit bunnies, but he can never get the timing down. On the whole, Bubba makes for a forgettable diversion. On the plus side, it is awesome to see other characters influence the gameplay rather than stand aside and wait for a cutscene to happen. Plus, it's really gratifying to have a new mechanic introduced just for the sake of grabbing treasure. Normally, you get diversions for stuff that's going to cause you trouble, like giant boulders and runaway minecarts. And because Bubba is forgettable, the segment works well with the Himalayas on the whole.
This is the end of the line, Bubba. It's time for you to head to the surface.
Bubba home with Scrooge?
Aye, Launchpad is waiting to take you home to Duckburg. On your way now.
It's a stage about structure and interesting enemies, so a show-stopping gameplay element would feel out of place. The Himalayas are more downplayed than the relatively showy African mines. You know, interesting structure and showy gameplay mechanics rarely mix. I don't mean in DuckTales Remastered. I mean in video games. For instance, in Metroid, the entire game is essentially one big level, and you have subtle gameplay mechanics. They're interesting, but subtle. Something like Alien Shoulder.
It's the second piece of the fuel regulator. One more piece to find and we can get out of this overgrown icebox.
Something like Alien Soldier, on the other hand, has a ton of wild things to figure out, but it's a really strictly linear game. Anyway, this vertical passage is completely new to the remastered version of the Himalayas. In the NES version, there were 2 horizontal paths inside the cave. When you went all the way to the left on either path, you'd hit a dead end. Then again, you're not required to explore either dead end in the NES version. However, in Remastered, you have to explore both horizontal paths, since you need to pick up the fuel regulator pieces on both of them. The vertical path that we took on the far left, then, makes that exploration easy by linking the two dead ends. Remastered forces you to explore areas that were optional in the NES version, but they also make accommodations for such exploration. I hate those spiders. And that's all the commentary I have written, until like 14.5 minutes. There's a secret passage in the ceiling that we're gonna pass up here eventually. That's on top of some ice blocks. In the NES version, you don't get hidden ceiling passages unless you can go off the screen to the left or to the right. But here the hidden ceiling passage comes in the middle of the room. So you just kind of have to walk, you walk all the way over to the left, and then there's a rope to climb and you just sort of have to know it's there. I don't know if there's another way into that area and I went in the wrong way. Yeah, it's right here. I don't think this hidden passage has an analog in the NES original.
Mrs. Weekly. I didn't get to be number one by backing down. I've never seen a gem like this before. It's mine!
I do like that they combined the snow and the spiders a whole lot. I think that's a really good idea because, I mean, you use your bounce to get above the spiders.
Oh, look at the ducks! The last one! Now to get this fuel regulator back to launch pad. One by backing down. Oh, no you don't.
Here we get two scenarios we didn't see elsewhere in the stage, squeezing just a bit more variety out of assets that the stage already had. The first puts ropes and spiders together, making the spiders a cinch since you can just hang up at the top and wait for them to fall. Then, there's a spider with ceiling spikes, making him harder than usual. You can't bounce upward indiscriminately to get above him. In the NES version, this is where we climbed a rope upward in order to avoid a boulder. That section provided a short burst of excitement right before the challenging platforming segment that ended the stage. It was a bridge in the vein of that crumbling ceiling section towards the end of the Amazon stage. However, the NES Himalayas had a different structure altogether. That stage spiraled inwards, and we got the boulder section right before hitting the last stretch of the spiral. As a result, the Yeti boss sat directly in the center of the stage at the heart of the spiral. In Remastered, the Himalayas stage is a giant circle, meaning we end up where we started. The new spider section also serves up some excitement and variety, but with more subtlety than a giant rock.
I didn't get to be number one by backing down. Here you go, Launchpad. Good as new. Now get this bucket of bolts back in the sky.
Just a tick, Mr. McD. This oughta do it. Now there's your problem.
Webigail, what in the world are you doing here?
I wanted to see the pretty crown, Uncle Scrooge.
Oh, great. Now I've got to babysit you and Launchpad.
But I can help, Uncle Scrooge. You're not like the boys, are you? You don't think I'm just a worthless tag-along, do you?
We're ready for liftoff, Mr. McD.
Ah, not a moment too soon. Strap in tight, Webby dear.
Off we go. Nothing but blue skies ahead. Clear as a bell. Not a cloud in sight.
Launchpad, knock off that infernal chatter.
Gee whiz, I was only trying to lighten the mood.
If anything, we need to lighten the plane. Feels like she's lost maneuverability with all the, unexpected cargo we seem to have picked up.
No worries, Mr. McD. I've got the coordinates for Shadow Pass locked in. We'll be there lickety-split.
More like lickety-splat.
Glomgold!
Nice to see you, McDuck. Especially since you've led me right to the treasure. To whom do I owe my thanks? Your idiotic pilot? Or did you play it safe and let those two wee ones fly the plane?
You dirty cheat! Only you could sink so low.
And at 15,000 feet, no less.
Complain all you like. The lost crown of Genghis Khan will look right at home on my feathered noggin. Wouldn't you say, Scroogey?
That's what you think. You'll never beat us to Shadow Pass.
So, the crown is in Shadow Pass, eh? Thanks for telling me.
Launchpad!
That boulder segment in the NES Himalaya stage is matched and remastered by this fight with Glomgold. Just like the boulder, this is a unique and exciting portion. We've completed the circuit. You know, we started with Launchpad, traipsed clockwise around the mountain, and then found our way back to Launchpad. After that, this fight makes for a unique and exciting bridge from that circuit to the final stretch. It's interesting that completing the circuit isn't the end of the stage. When I close a circle, it feels like I've finished something, right? But this structure works because the flight takes us to an entirely new and entirely linear platforming segment. It cleanses us of the maze we've just cleared, and gives us a straightforward segment to navigate, letting things focus squarely on action again, just like at the beginning of the stage, before the rabbits scattered the pieces of the fuel regulator. Are they rabbits or bunnies?
You haven't seen the last of me, McDuck!
Take that, you big old meanie! We sure showed him that cheaters never cheat and winners never win, didn't we?
Try it the other way around and I couldn't agree more, Webby. Pickle me pin feathers. There it is. Shadow Pass directly ahead. Take us down, Launchpad. Slow and steady this time.
No problemo, Mr. McD.
We're close to that treasure now. I can almost smell it.
Wasn't me.
Then what was it?
That definitely wasn't me.
Whatever it is, it won't last long if it tries to get between me and the lost crown.
Uncle Scrooge, don't go.
Don't worry, lassie. Whatever is in that cave is no match for your Uncle Scrooge. I earn my fortune by being smarter than the smarties and tougher than the toughies. If anything's in there, it had better step aside.
But I'm scared.
Stay with Launchpad. He'll take good care of you.
Stay with Launchpad. Gee, now I'm extra scared.
Again, I don't have any commentary written for this part. It's pretty much the intro portion of the level where you get goats and bunnies and snow, except now there are bottomless pits. It's neat that the goats get a chance to return. I don't think we saw enough of the goats in the NES version. And I don't think we see enough of the hockey ducks in either version. Those are really interesting enemies. I like enemies that get to use the same blocks as you. That's a really neat idea. Up ahead we've got some pretty tight jumps. I mean, it's no Snake Man, but it's pretty close. Even though DuckTales Remastered changes the Himalayas significantly, it still evokes the sense of the NES Himalayas. In the NES Himalayas, you wouldn't get lost during the above-ground intro portion. There were multiple paths, but both of them went forward. Inside the cave, however, paths crisscrossed horizontally and vertically, and there was one specific way forward amongst dead ends. Then, the stage concluded with an above-ground one-way platforming challenge. In Remastered, the above-ground intro portion has no collecting, and is a straightforward platforming combat section. The fuel regulator is broken up right before you head into the cave, and the cave is where you root around for the fuel regulator parts. That is to say, the cave is where you do your wandering around and getting lost. When you return above ground, you quickly make your way to fight Glomgold, and after that, you get your above ground one-way platforming challenge. And it makes sense, right? It's only natural that getting around on a mountaintop would be rough because of the footing, and then you get lost in deep, dark caves. As my good friends the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles taught me, this cave is creepy. This structure also brings the remastered Himalayas more in line with the moon than the previous three stages. The Amazon, Transylvania, and the African mines all started with collecting and ended with a linear bit. In the Himalayas and on the moon, though, we have a linear bit, some collecting, and then a concluding linear bit. Well, maybe. It's up for debate if the moon fits that mold. I guess I'll have to save that discussion for next time.
It's getting interesting. I mean, speed. Webby!
Be nice, Uncle Scrooge. That poor fuzzy lady didn't mean any harm. Did you, ma'am?
Ma'am, don't be daft, lass. This monster tried to pummel me. Why, I nearly cashed my last check.
Oh, I know, ma'am. But Uncle Scrooge is really nice once you get to know him.
Webby, you understand this creature?
Of course, Uncle Scrooge. It's all in the Junior Woodchuck Guidebook.
What's she saying now?
She says she's sorry if she hurt you. She's just upset because she stepped on a thorn and can't get it out.
A thorn? You don't suppose... Here's your thorn, Abigail. The lost crown of Genghis Khan.
The pretty crown! You found it!
Aye, the poor creature was standing on it. Webby, I cannot thank you enough. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Without your help, we never would have found the treasure. Oh, and thanks to you too, ma'am.
I think she likes you, Uncle Scrooge.
Yeah, that's odd. Usually it's me the ladies go gaga for.
Aye, well, let's get home before she grows any fonder of me.
Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.
The lost crown of Genghis Khan is mine, lads. All it took was a bit of tenacity and perseverance.
And a little kindness and patience. Right, Uncle Scrooge?
Right you are, Webby darling. Now, where's Bubba run off to?
Yeah, where is he? He was here a minute ago.
Why does no answer Baba?
He's over there having a tea party with Webby's toys.
No. Baba smash!
Uh-oh, Webby. Sounds like Bubba's not getting along so good with your Quacky Patch dolls. You keep away from my dolls, mister!
Remember, kindness and patience, Abigail. Set a good example for the lad. Well then, what treasure shall we look for next?